Are you also proposing to delete
That
the word
the debt.
is?
Well, yes, or the debt, the matter to.
Kindly read the amendment for the
Is in
record.
dispute? No, we retain it, Mr. President.
Wala ho tayong mahabang pag-usapan ngayon mga ka-reaction of DPH. Nagsalpukan ho itong si Pingky at itong lang si One World University. Kaya mga kapatid, maganda-ganda ho itong ating masasaksihan dyan sa Senado ngayon kung saan majority versus majority. Mismong si Senator Marcoleta mga kapatid magsasalita na rin ho. Kaya mga kapatid, wala ho tayong paligoy-ligoy pa kung bago lang ho kayo sa ating channel. Isang like, isang share, isang subscribe lamang ho. Malaking tulong na yan. React na ho tayo dito sa mga pasabog dyan sa Senado kung saan majority versus majority nga ang labanan ho ngayon. Kaya mga update, wala na ho tayong paligoy-ligoy pa.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the basis of our discussion, this representation is of the opinion that we should remove the imprisonment aspect, just the civil aspect of the penal clause that is being proposed for amendment, Mr. President.
And retain the fines that
Yes,
you
Mr.
proposed.
President. Yes.
All right, subject to style. What does the sponsor say?
Accepted, Mr. President, with thanks
Accepted.
to the Senator from
Thank you, Senator.
Bulacan.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted. Amendments approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And lastly, in Section 14, renumbered as Section 16, implementing rules and regulations from this representation. On page 4, line 26, after the word civil society organizations, comma, insert the words professional organizations specializing in neurodevelopment disorders to read as follows. Section 16, implementing rules and regulations. Within 90, in parentheses, numerals 90 days from the effectivity of this act, the NCDA, in consultation with the DOH, JRRMMC, PhilHealth, DepEd, CHED, TESDA, DOLE, CSC, DSWD, LGUs, other concerned government agencies, civil society organizations, professional organizations specializing in neurodevelopment disorders, autism self-advocates, parents groups, and other stakeholders shall promulgate the implementing rules and regulations. I so move, Mr. President.
I seldom do this, but I think you should. Well, if you believe that this will be strong enough, my experience is oras na nag-IRR tayo at hindi natin specify dito, pinakikialaman ng mga mag-IRR
I submit to the advice of the good Senate President.
Yes, I think we should not mention it, if you don't mind.
I believe, Mr. President.
I've seen it. I've seen it in many laws that we have, many bills that we have passed that become into law. Sometimes we could not effectively implement the law because the IRR is not finished.
Not
Meron
released
mataon
or contrary to what is embodied in the law,
Correct.
Mr. President.
Correct. Sometimes
So
it
maybe we
happens.
can take out if with the permission of the good sponsor, maybe we can just take out the provision which mentions the IRR.
Yes, Mr. President, I'm willing to not move
Please.
to
Yes,
propose this
and
amendment.
the best thing is for the Committee on Health to exercise oversight over this particular bill. That will be
That is a
better
good,
than an
that is a
IRR.
good amendment, Mr. President.
We'll do
that
so,
will
Mr.
be-
President.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
No further amendments, Mr.
No
President.
further amendments, Majority Leader. I think it will be ideal for us to have a clean copy before we approve on second reading.
I'll just move
Because
to
of the
close,
many-
Mr. President, I'll move to close the period of amendments. If
Yes. All
the
right.
body will agree. Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move to close the period of amendments.
Any objection? Hearing none, period of amendments closed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We move to suspend consideration of the measure and wait for the clean copy of the bill.
All right. Hearing no objection, the consideration of 1822 is suspended.
We also like to
Mr.
make,
President.
with the permission of the author, Senator Marcoleta would like to also be made co-author of the measure, Mr. President. So for the record.
Senator Marcoleta is
Yes, Mr. President.
made a co-author of the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Thank you. It's now suspended. Therefore, we move to the next item of the agenda, Mr. President. I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1744 under Committee Report number 26. I so move. Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. 1744. Consideration is in order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Joel Villanueva, to sponsor
Senator Joel
and
Villanueva,
propose
the
amendments.
sponsor of the measure, is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Majority Leader. Mr. President, we are ready to receive individual amendments from our dear colleagues, Mr. President, and I think, Your Honor, the distinguished Senate President would like to introduce an amendment, Mr. President.
Session is suspended. The President pro tem is asked to ascend to the rostrum.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are ready to receive proposed amendments from our dear colleagues. May we yield the floor to our good Senate President, Mr. President.
To introduce his amendments, the Senate President is recognized. One minute suspension.
Thank you. Will the distinguished gentleman from Bulacan favor us by receiving some of the proposed amendments? We will.
Most definitely, Mr. President, will be honored to hear the wisdom of our good Senate President, Mr. President.
If there are no anterior amendments, I'd like to propose an amendment on page 4, line 17.
Yes, Mr. President, there are no amendments from page 1 to 3. So we proceed with the page 4, line
Yes.
17. If not,
Line
I'm not mistaken.
17,
Thank you.
the letter D.
Letter D.
I propose that we replace it with not state any detail about the debt except the fact of its existence necessary for any lawful purpose without disclosing the terms of the contract of loan.
We accept, Mr. President.
An objection? Amendment is approved.
On page 6, line 26, to continue, Mr.
Page
President,
6.
somehow,
Mr. President, may I introduce, I think Senator Marcoleta is introducing an amendment on page 5,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
President.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes.
Ako na babasa? Ako na ba? Teka lang Okay, should I? Ako na? Mr. President, I'll be the one to read the proposed amendment by our distinguished colleague, Senator Marcoleta. On page 5, after line 3, after the word agreement, insert the following. Such as by undergoing mediation, arbitration, or other forms of alternative dispute resolution, or by filing the appropriate complaint before the proper court, among other reconciliatory or judicial means. this representation, as the sponsor of the measure, would like to put on record that we accept the proposed amendment introduced by Senator Marcoleta.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Ano pa? We can entertain the proposed amendment of our distinguished Senate President on page 7, Mr. President.
No, page 6.
Oh, page 6, sorry. Page 6.
Page 6, actually, this is somehow an editorial amendment. Replace the word communication with the word communicating.
Accept, Mr. President, we accept.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Now, on page 7, Mr. President, to continue, line 30-31. My question is that will the bank honor the deposit of a post-dated check prior to the date indicated therein? I don't think so. Well, if no,
We agree.
why will we make criminal an act that has no effect? So I propose to delete letter C.
Yes, Mr. President, we agree with the Senate President, but what we are focusing here is the act of threatening, Mr. President.
Akala ko may counter sila rin.
So, Mr. President, we are amenable to deleting the depositing word, Mr. President.
Deleting the
Depositing or.
depositing or threatening. Yes.
Yes.
The entire letter C.
We wanted to retain, Mr. President, the threatening.
Okay.
Because we are only after the act of threatening.
Depositing. All right.
Yes,
all right.
Mr. President.
I accept, Mr. President, just to delete.
Kindly read the whole amendment on line 30 and 31.
Line 30. My proposed amendment was to delete it, but apparently, because of the explanation, I will propose to delete depositing or.
Yes.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President.
On page 9, if no anterior amendment on page 8.
Nothing, Mr. President. Nothing back.
Page 9, I propose to add the lines 12 to 14. No? Lines 12 to 14. I propose to add the following words: that either the creditor or the debtor took the matter to court. This will be in lines 13 to 14 to read as follows. So it will now read as follows. The debtor, after they have informed the debt collector through any verifiable means that the debt is in dispute and that either the creditor or the debtor took the matter to court.
We accept, Mr. President. That makes it clearer, Mr. President. Thank you. We accept.
Are you also deleting the word is after debt?
Yeah. No.
That the debt is in dispute? Are you also proposing to delete
That
the word
the debt-
is?
12.
Yes, or the debt took the matter to
Kindly read the amendment for the
Is in
record.
dispute? No, we retain it, Mr. President.
Retain.
That the debt is in dispute and
Yes,
that either
yes.
the creditor or debtor took the matter to court.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Alright.
should be the correct
Yes.
construction. Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. To continue, on page 10,
Page
line
10.
12.
9, 12.
Page 10, line 12. At the end of the sentence, add the phrase, without the consent of the debtor.
We accept, Mr. President.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. And on page 12, if there are no interior amendments on page 11.
There are none, Mr. President. Yes, we go
On
to
page 12, line 7,
9, 7. Upon the request.
replace line 7 until the semicolon, from the word upon up to the semicolon, replace it with Upon the request of the debtor, the debt collector shall have a complete accounting of all the details of the debt. Semicolon, provided that
If I may, Mr. President, instead of have A, can we, if the proponent would agree to delete have A and instead shall provide, Mr. President, if that's amenable to the distinguished Senate President.
shall have, you will, you want to use shall provide.
Shall provide, Mr. President.
I have no objection, Mr. President. I accept, I adopt.
Thank you, Mr. President.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Thank you.
And again, to continue, page 14,
Page
line 27.
14. Yes, page 14.
Line 27.
Line 27.
After the word department, insert the words with actual human agents and not merely machines or bots.
We accept, Mr. President.
Comma.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, on page 15, after section 22,
Meron pang isa, page 20.
after the separability clause, add a new section to read as follows.
I believe
Good.
Senator
Mr.
Gatchalian has an
President,
amendment
sorry,
on page
there is
14. Page 14, Senator Gatchalian.
Yes,
sorry.
yes, we have a
Page 15. Go ahead. There is
yes,
a anterior amendment.
thank you, Mr. President. On page, this is from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. On page 14, line 27, change the word who to which. We accept, Mr. President.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Which shall be responsible. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, there's another one anterior, Mr. President, on page 15, between lines 2 and 3, from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, insert the following paragraph. The section shall have a dedicated complaints desk to address violations of this act. The section shall act on complaints received through its complaints desk within 5 working days from receipt thereof. Failure of the responsible public official or employee to act on any complaint within the prescribed period shall constitute simple neglect of duty, subject to the filing of the appropriate administrative action based on prevailing Civil Service Commission rules and regulations, provided that in cases where the cause of delay is due to force majeure or other analogous circumstances, the prescribed period mandated herein shall be suspended and appropriate adjustments shall be made, provided further that in such cases of justifiable delay, the responsible public official or employee shall notify the complainant of the reason for the delay and the adjusted period to act on the complaint. We accept the proposed amendment of Senator Gatchalian, Mr.
In
President.
objection, hearing none, approved.
Another one, Mr. President, from Senator Gatchalian on page 15, between lines 2 and 3, insert a new section, section 20, which shall read as follows. Section 20, Information and Education Campaign. The section shall conduct a continuing information and education campaign to inform the general public of their rights under this act. The section shall inform, the SEC, SEC, shall inform financial consumers of how to identify abusive, deceptive, and unfair debt collection practices and how to avail of rights such as request for issuance of receipts, request for accounting, use of loan cost calculator, and available redress mechanisms. We accept the proposed amendment by Senator Gatchalian.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
We yield the floor to our dear Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Sponsor. On page 15, Your Honor, after section 22, add a new section to read as follows. Good faith requirement. The protections under this act shall only apply to debtors who invoke them in good faith and shall not be available to those who invoke such protections for the purposes of evading payment of the obligation.
We accept, Mr. President, as this is very important to, again, emphasize na ang utang ay isang obligasyon, Mr. President. We accept.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
And renumber the succeeding sections, Mr. President.
So renumbered.
I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your Honor, thank you, Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Mr. Senate President. Mr. President, one last or two more. One last proposed amendment from our dear colleague Senator Gatchalian on page 15, line 20. Delete the words "at least 2 national papers" and replace it with "in a newspaper." So the sentence shall now read as follows. This act shall take effect 15 days after its publication in the official gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation. We accept, Mr. President.
Any objection, hearing none, approved.
Mr. President, we just would like to make a short manifestation, just a clarification on why our proposed measures does not contain an IRR provision. The committee envisioned the bill to be implemented at face value. That is why we made the provisions as clear as possible. We note that the crafting of the IRR usually causes delay in the implementation of our laws. So, Mr. President, in doing so, we will ensure that the measure will not remain dormant after passage. It reinforces legislative intent and prevents undue delay in delivering protection to financial consumers. And furthermore, Section 16 of the proposed bill already authorizes the SEC to issue the necessary rules and regulations for the implementation of the provisions of this act, including the imposition of reasonable administrative penalties for violations thereof. Marami pong salamat, Ginoong Pangulo and dear colleagues.
Thank you, Senator Villanueva. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, with that, I move to close the period of amendments.
In objection, hearing none, period of amendments is hereby closed.
Mr. President, I move that we approve on second reading Senate Bill number 1744 under Committee Report number 26. I so move.
In objection, hearing none, Senate Bill 1744 under Committee Report 26 approved on second reading. Congratulations.
Thank you very much to the sponsor. Congratulations in order as well. Thank you. Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the measure.
In objection, hearing none, consideration of the measure is suspended.
May I ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President?
1 minute suspension.
Sponsor.
Ano ba yan?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Our distinguished colleague, our Senate President pro tempore, would like to be recognized to avail of the privilege hour. May we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Panfilo Lacson.
The President Pro Temp, Senator Ping Lacson, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise today on a matter of personal and collective privilege. As chairman of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, I have been subject of criticisms for not scheduling the 18 ex-military personnel who faced the media in an organized press conference at the historic Club Filipino on the eve of the 40th EDSA People Power Revolution to be called and testify before your committee on accountability of public officers and investigations. During the said press conference last February 24, these 18 individuals made claims on their supposed knowledge as former security personnel of one of the key personalities in the flood control scandal, former Congressman Saldico. To be clear, while every imputation of a crime warrants our attention, none deserves our blind deference. In the same manner that everyone has a right to be heard, it is not a license to mislead. Hence, while I reserve judgment on the merits of the testimonies, I am duty-bound to raise questions of logic and, at the very least, basic mathematics. These are not intended to disparage the testimonies of the said individuals, but rather ensure that proper evaluation of the credibility and reliability of both the source or sources of the information and the information itself adhere to rational and logical standards of believability before we take appropriate action. Siguradong bibigyang kulay na naman ng mga trolls ang mga tanong na ito. Pero isipin na lang natin kung magagamit ang mga nasabing aligasyon bilang instrumento ng propaganda o anumang motibo, hindi ba dapat ay logical at mathematically possible man lamang ang mga akusasyon? If only for argument's sake, Mr. President, let us accept the statement of Attorney Levy Baligod last weekend that the 805 billion pesos in kickbacks did not come solely from flood control project appropriations, contrary to what was initially reported. Let us consider the available variables that must inform our analysis, Mr. President. As earlier computed by the late Senator Ramon Revilla Sr. and further corroborated by Mr. Curly Discaya during one of our BRC hearings, 1 million pesos approximately weighs 1 kilogram. Basically, this means that the two executive assistants of Saldico, assisted by 18 ex-military personnel and other unnamed personalities, received, unloaded, repacked, and reloaded and moved 805,000 kilograms or 805 metric tons in paper bills over a certain period of time. And this does not include yet the weight of the packages themselves. Thus, we need to add around 53,600 kilograms or 53.6 metric tons, representing the combined weight of at least 13,400 large empty maletas or suitcases to accommodate 805 billion pesos, with the assumption each was made of soft-sided nylon or polyester materials, each weighing around 4 kilograms. Let's try to imagine the processes involved in the preparation and distribution of this cash. Suppose that the executive assistants or trusted personnel of Saldico, named Mark Tiksay and Paul Estrada, processed 500 million pesos a day, working 24/7, 365 days a year, including unloading, counting, repacking, loading, and delivering the money. This would take 5.5 years or mid-2028. Hindi pa sila tapos mag-deliver hanggang ngayon, Mr. President. If they started in 2023 or mid-2027, if they started as early as the second semester of 2022, when then Congressman Saldico took over the chairmanship of the House Appropriations Committee. Relatedly, one may still ask how such huge sums of money were physically collected and delivered to the residence of former Congressman Ko. To move this much wealth at a limit of 500 million pesos per day, you would need to make 1,610 deliveries to Saldico's Valle Verde 6 residence or somewhere else. Unloading, unpacking, repacking, reloading, and again delivering to different individual recipients. Even if they do it every single day of the year, it would take them 4.4 years to complete the 800 million peso deliveries, Mr. President. We can only imagine the logistical nightmare involved in the magnitude of the operations of former Congressman Saldico. By the way, following the joint narrative of the 18 security personnel, magkano ang natirang kickback kay Saldico? Zero? Was he just a messenger? Damanggit ng 18 security personnel sa kanilang affidavit na ang bahay ni Congressman Saldico sa Valle Verde 6, Pasig City ay naging bagsakan ng cash kung saan din ginagawa ni Mark Teksay, John Paul Estrada at iba pang empleyado ang pagbibilang at pag-impake ng mga ito sa iba't ibang lalagyan. Since former Congressman Saldico served as chairman of the House Appropriations Committee from July 2022 to January 2025, his supposed influence and access to the national budget, assuming he exercised full and unlimited control, were during the period 2023 and 2024 or for a full 2 years. We are also saying here that 85 billion worth of paper bills were encashed from our bank reserves over the years. According to a Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the total physical cash in 2024, meaning the paper bills as well as coins that were currently held by the public and circulating in the economy, including those inside bank vaults, that year stood at 2.7 trillion pesos. That would mean that 400 billion or half of the 805 billion out of the 2.7 trillion pesos of physical cash of 114 Filipinos passed through a single individual, equivalent to around 15% of the total physical cash, both in circulation and those kept in all the bank vaults. Going back to the 805 billion pesos in totality, that was solely and exclusively at Saldico's disposal in 2023 and 2024. If we were to believe the 18 ex-soldiers, then those accumulated over the same period by personalities who are now facing plunder and other cases like the former DPW's officials, Roberto Bernardo, Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, etc. Contractors, etc. must be factored in to compute the aggregate total of absconded monies from the 2023 to 2024 GAAs. I raise this question to ensure that the testimonies withstand established facts and logic before we even invite them to testify before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. Pray tell, Mr. President, if their statements appear to be demonstratively false and physically impossible to accomplish, wouldn't convening a hearing effectively validate and dignify this information? That is my question. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader. I cannot answer the question.
No, I
Sounds
asked the
impossible.
good gentleman, Chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee, if he would like to wish it to refer to his committee, but we'll just put it, refer it to the Committee on Rules, Mr. President, for the meantime.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, to proceed, we also have another distinguished gentleman who would like to avail of the privilege hour, particularly on the issue of the OFWs, because of the war that is happening now in the Middle East. May we recognize our distinguished colleague, the chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations, no other than Senator Erwin Tulfo.
Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise on a matter of urgent national and international concern. The escalating hostilities between the United States of America, Israel, and Iran, and its serious implications on global peace, regional stability, and Philippine national interests. Last Saturday, February 28, 2026, according to news reports, the United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes under what has been reported as Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion. Reports indicate that Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and other senior figures were killed. Iran responded with airstrikes not only against Israel, but also against U.S. bases and facilities across the Gulf region, including Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. Civilian infrastructure, including major airports such as Dubai International Airport, have reportedly been affected. The recent exchange of direct military strikes marks a dangerous turning point in an already volatile region. Civilian lives have been lost, airports have been closed, oil markets have trembled. The international community watches with apprehension as regional tensions threaten to spiral beyond control. Mr. President, while this conflict unfolds thousands of miles from our shores, its consequences are not distant. First, the safety of overseas Filipinos. Isang Pilipina caregiver po ang naiulat na namatay sa Tel Aviv, si Mary Ann Velasquez de Vera ng Pangasinan. Isa lang po si Mary Ann sa libu-libong kababayan natin na naninirahan at nagtatrabaho sa Israel, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, at UAE. Their protection and safety are not optional, Mr. President. It is our constitutional and moral duty. Mr. President, dear colleagues, we must ensure that evacuation and repatriation protocols are ready, adequately funded, and fully coordinated with host governments. No Filipino must be left behind. No Filipino must be unaccounted for. Second, energy security and economic stability. A significant portion of the world's oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Any disruption in the corridor could lead to spikes in global oil prices. Ang epekto nito ay tiyak na ramdam ng bawat pamilyang Pilipino. Pagtaas po ng presyo ng gasolina, pagtaas ng pamasahe, pagtaas ng mga bilihin, at panibagong pasanin sa gitna ng patuloy na hamon ng ekonomiya. Kaya kinakailangan na nating tiyakin na may malinaw na plano ang pamahalaan upang protektahan ang ating ekonomiya laban sa panlabas na krisis mula sa sapat na reserbang enerhiya hanggang sa maagap na price monitoring at market intervention. Third, the integrity in international law and the rules-based order. The Philippines has consistently anchored its foreign policy on peaceful settlement of disputes, adherence to international law, and respect for sovereignty. Yes, the Philippines maintains long-standing alliances, yet we are equally guided by our Constitution to pursue an independent foreign policy rooted in national interests founded on peace, diplomacy, and order. Escalation and unilateral military actions, regardless of the actor, strain the very international system that protects smaller states like ours. At this point, Mr. President, it is not for this chamber to inflame rhetoric in a distant battlefield, but it is our duty to affirm what must remain constant: the protection of Filipino lives, the preservation of economic stability, the primacy of diplomacy over destruction, and the urgent call for de-escalation. Accordingly, this representation, Mr. President, filed Senate Resolution 322, respectfully calling upon the appropriate committees, including the Committee on Foreign Relations, Committee on Migrant Workers, and Committee on Energy, among others, to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to assess contingency measures to mitigate potential impacts on the ongoing armed conflict. We must keep the welfare of Filipinos worldwide at the forefront of our national response. We must remain vigilant in market monitoring and economic safeguards. And we must support diplomatic efforts through multilateral engagements and regional cooperation aimed at restoring stability. In moments such as this, we pray that prudence, restraint, and wisdom guide the decision of nations. May reason rise above rage. May diplomacy triumph over destruction. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Tulfo. Senator Bamakino is recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Would the gentleman yield to a few questions?
Yes.
Unang-una po, Mr. President, we support the Chairperson on Foreign Affairs with this move to have a hearing para mapag-usapan ang mga iba't ibang kailangan gawin, no, para matulungan po natin yung mga kababayan natin. I also filed Resolution 321, no? So magkasunod po yung resolution natin at parehas rin po yung subject matter. Yung resolution po natin is calling for urgent measures to ensure the safety, protection, and repatriation readiness of overseas Filipino workers and Filipino nationals in countries affected by the February 28, 2026 United States-Israel strike on Iran and the subsequent region-wide military responses. No? Magkahintulad po, no, yung mga napag-usapan po ng resolution natin, pero nais ko lang pong detalyehin. No? So unang-una, Mr. President, kapag sinabi nating repatriation, tama po ba, Mr. President? Ibig sabihin nun, yung mga nais umuwi ay mabibigyan ng chance ang umuwi, Mr. President?
Tama po yun, Ginoong Pangulo, good gentleman from Tarlac. Ang ibig pong sabihin noon ay voluntary po pag sinabing repatriation, kasi may mga levels po. May alert level 3, voluntary, at alert level 4 ay mandatory repatriation.
Ngayon po, Mr. President, we're on alert level 2, right?
Alert level 2 po sa panayam ko or pagkikipag-usap ko po kay DFA Secretary Tess Lazaro. Ang alert level 2 po ay doon sa mga GCC o Gulf Cooperation Council o yung mga bansa tulad ng UAE, Qatar, Kuwait at Oman ang nasa alert level 2, habang alert level 3 naman po ay sa Israel at Syria. At ang alam ko po ay alert level 3 pa rin po doon naman para sa mga kababayan natin na naninirahan sa Iran.
And Mr. President, pag umabot na yan ng alert level 4, kailangan na pong umuwi. Papauwi na yung mga OFW natin.
Yun po ay mandatory repatriation na po yun. Ibig sabihin, kukontakin na po sila ng ating mga embahada, ng ating pong OWA, para sila po ay mag-report o pumunta sa isang lugar kung saan po sila ay pipick upin at dadalhin po sa safe na lugar. Ang problema po ngayon ng ating pamahalaan at hindi lang po tayo kundi ibang mga bansa ay hindi mailabas ang mga iba't ibang lahi kasi nga po sarado ang airspace, wala pong mga eroplano, wala pong mga flight at ang tanging pamamaraan lamang po na pwede silang ilikas ay sa pamamagitan po ng land transport o di kaya paggamit po ng mga barko sa dagat.
Mr. President, meron po bang pondo ang ang OWA, is it OWA or DMW, Department of Migrant Workers, para po sa repatriation ng mga kababayan po natin?
Meron po, actually, nung sa BICAM po, na-anticipate na po natin and si Chair Sherwin, tinaasan po natin ng 800 million po ang pondo po ng DMW Office of the Secretary at ang Action Fund po ng OWA ay dinagdagan po natin ng 500 million. Kaya umabot po ito sa 1.3 billion. Samantalang sa DFA naman po para sa repatriation ay 1 billion pesos.
Mr. President, tama po ba higit 2 milyong kababayan ang meron tayo sa Middle East?
Tama po yun. Yun po yung ating mga overseas Filipino workers.
Mr. President, maybe in the hearing, Mr. President, kung wala po tayong sagot ngayon, gusto rin ho nating malaman yung pondong nakalaan ay kung mag-a-avail ng repatriation services ang ating mga kababayan, kung ilan po sa kanila yung posibleng makakuha ng tulong na makauwi. No, I don't know, Mr. President, kung kakayanin. Siyempre, 2 million, napakalaki po ng 2 million. And alam na naman ho natin, di naman lahat to ay nagdedesisyon na umuwi. Pero maganda pong malaman, Mr. President, kung ilan kaya yung kayang ma-accommodate. Kasi kung kulang po, magandang madagdagan po yung pondo para kung mag-escalate nga po ito, meron pong paraan yung mga kababayan po natin na makauwi ng libre at matiwasay.
Kaya nga po sa ngayon ang payo po ng ating mga embahada sa mga kababayan natin sa mga lugar kung saan ngayon ay may kaguluhan sa Middle East ay stay put at mag-ingat. Ang isa pa hong problema kasi bagamat kahit na gusto po ng mga kababayan natin umuwi ang mga OFWs, lalo na po dyan sa mga lugar na UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, tuloy-tuloy po ang pasok ayon naman po sa DMW. So, obligado po yung mga kababayan natin na pumasok pa rin.
Opo.
Pero may mga nagpahiwatig na rin po na gusto pong umuwi, lalo na po yung mga na-trap na mga kababayan natin na mga galing po sa Europe sa bakasyon, nandyan po sa Dubai ngayon. Meron din po yata tayo ilang mga pilgrims dyan po sa Israel na nagpahiwatig po nga umuwi. So ito po ngayon ang inaasikaso ng Department of Foreign Affairs kung paano po sila madala sa safer na lugar. At ito po mga lugar na ito ay limitado lamang po. Isa po ang Oman, isa po ang Egypt, at isa pong tinitingnan ngayon ng DFA ay ito pong Turkey.
Mr. President, no, napaka-komprehensibo po ng inyong binigay na mga datos. Sa totoo lang po, hinihintay rin po ng mga kapwa senador namin ang update ni Senator Tulfo, no, pagdating po sa mga nangyayari sa Middle East. Mr. President, nais ko rin malaman, yung mga uuwi po dito, anong serbisyo ang posible po nilang makuha kung sila po yung magde-decide na umuwi? Anong tulong ang pwede po nilang makuha mula po sa ating gobyerno?
May mga pondo po ang DMW para po sa mga kababayan natin po na umuwi. I believe nasa 15,000 hanggang 25,000 po ang initial. Nakaantabay din po dyan ang Department of Labor and Employment po natin. May mga pondo rin po. Tutulong din po dyan, yung Department of Social Welfare and Development. Pag may mga krisis pong ganito, ang ginagawa po ng Malacanang, nung ako po ay DSWD Secretary pa, ay pinagsasama-sama po yung mga ahensya na yan to form like a task force para tumulong po sa mga kababayan natin na mga umuwi galing sa overseas para mabigyan ng financial assistance yung mga umuwi galing sa ibang bansa.
So tama, Mr. President, magsisimula yan sa safety ng mga kababayan natin doon kung nasaan sila ngayon, no? Matulungan natin sila na maging secure at safe sa abot ng mga kaya. Kung umabot ito sa alert level 4 or nais nang umuwi, may tulong na umuwi dito. That's the repatriation services, of course, subject to airspace being open again. Pag uwi po dito, dapat may serbisyong maibibigay. Alam ko, Mr. President, na itong nangyayari ngayon sa Middle East ay unprecedented talaga, tsaka may potential po talagang lumaki, no? So I will support you, Mr. President. Pag nag-hearing na po tayo, magandang malaman mula sa mga ahensya magkanong nakalaan, handa ba sila, at higit sa lahat, sapat na ba ito sa magnitude, no, ng posibleng mangyari po at posibleng maging outcome nitong mga nangyayaring kaguluhan po sa Middle East. Because Mr. President, habang sabi nga nila, yung pagsisisi nasa huli, habang may konti pang oras, maganda Mr. President na magtulungan tayo para masigurado na nandyan yung pondo, handa yung gobyerno, at yung mga kababayan nating mangangailangang umuwi ay makakakuha po ng sapat na tulong. We want to see, Mr. President, the scale of which our services are funded and can be provided at makumpara po yon sa mga estimate ng mga uuwi po ditong mga kababayan po natin, Mr. President.
Madagdag ko lamang po, Ginoong Pangulo, bago pa man po sumiklab itong digmaan na ito dyan po sa gitnang silangan, ay minomonitor na po ito ng Department of Foreign Affairs. Ayon po yan kay Secretary Tess Lazaro. Few weeks ago po yan, may anticipation po na baka mag-back down po yung negotiation, yung pag-uusap po between ng US at Iran. Ang pinag-uusapan po nila ay alisin po yung nuclear armaments po o production ng bansang Iran, na hindi po pumayag yung isa, yung Iran po. Kaya yun ho naging problema. Binomba po ito. Inuna na po ng Israel. So mayroon pong anticipation at nung Sabado nga po ng alas 11 ng gabi dahil nagsimula po ang pambobomba umaga ng Sabado, our time. Pagdating po alas 11 ng gabi ay nagkaroon po ng Zoom meeting ang DFA, kasama po ang DMW at ang mga iba't ibang embahada natin sa lugar, kasama po ang labor attaché para pag-usapan po ang contingency plan. Matagal na pong nakalatag ang contingency plan ng ating pamahalaan. Siguro po halos 3 linggo bago po nagkagulo ay nailatag na po yan at yung mga ruta na kanila pong dadaanan. Na-anticipate na rin po ng DFA na isasara po ang mga airspace sa mga lugar na ito. Kaya nga po ang option lamang ngayon ay through land or sea para mailabas po sila at yung mga bansa na nabanggit natin tulad po ng Turkey, Oman at saka Egypt ang siya pa lamang po ika nga ay safe haven para sa mga kababayan natin na magsilikas mula sa ika nga digmaan.
Mr. President, we thank you for your leadership and your chairmanship. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. President, we look forward to the hearing that will be held with regard to this subject. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, before I refer the committee, the good gentleman, just manifestations from our colleagues. One from Senator Rafi Tulfo, the other also from Senator Risa Ontiveros. May we recognize the two.
Who goes first?
Our colleagues.
Senator Rapi Tulfo is recognized.
Will it be ladies first? Senator Rafi Tulfo first, Mr. President. On the same topic muna, then I'll refer you later sa speech.
Thank you. Mr. President, I would like to associate myself with the privileged speech of Senator Erwin Tulfo. As chairperson of the Senate Committee on Migrant Workers, I'm closely monitoring the escalating tensions in the Middle East. Excuse me. Luba po akong nababahala, lalo na tumigit kumulang nasa 2.44 million overseas Philippine workers ang nandun ngayon. Nakakalungkot din pong ibalita, Mr. President, na may isa pong OFW caregiver, siya po ay si Mary Ann Velasquez de Vera ng Basista, Pangasinan, ang nasawi sa Israel habang sinusubukan niyang iligtas ang kanyang alaga sa gitna ng kaguluhan sa nasabing riyon. Since yesterday, I've been in close coordination with the Department of Migrant Workers, Department of Foreign Affairs, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and airline companies to ensure that all necessary contingency measures are fully operational. The Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, assured us that adequate assistance funds are readily available for emergency evacuation, temporary shelter, medical needs, and financial support for affected workers. While we are hopeful that diplomatic efforts will prevent further escalation, I call on our OFW to remain vigilant, stay in constant communication with the nearest Philippine diplomatic post, and strictly follow local advisories and safety protocols. As the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Migrant Workers, I guarantee the public, particularly the OFWs, that we are ready to exercise the committee oversight functions to ensure that no Filipino is left behind. And before I end my speech, Mr. President, isa po sa dapat pagtunan din natin pansin, and which I'm doing right now, ay hindi lamang mga OFW kundi lubos na maapektuhan din ang ating mga kababayan, particular ng transport group kapag nag-escalate ng problema. Of course, almost automatically natataas po yung presyo ng mga langis. So pag tumaas po yung mga presyo ng langis, then of course directly affected yung transport group natin, and I came to know na wala raw palang subsidy budget ang ating pamahalaan for them for this year. So saan tayo kukuha ng pangsuporta sa ating special sa mga fisher folks at sa mga nasa agribusiness, nasa agricultural sector. So that is something na kailangan din pagtuunan ng pansin. And then sa katanungan ni Senator Bam Aquino kanina, so what's going to happen to the OFWs na babalik ng bansa? So that's why I'm filing the OFW, I filed the OFW reintegration bill that will address doon sa question ni Senator Bam na pagdating nila rito, ano ang pwede nilang maasahan. At doon sa bill na yun, sinasagot lahat. That's all, Mr. President. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Senator Rapi.
May we recognize also to give a manifestation on the speech of Senator Erwin Tulfo, our distinguished Deputy Majority Floor Leader, Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Senator Risa Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Bilang pagsuporta po dun sa privilege speech sa good gentleman mula sa Palawan, intensyon ko rin po, Mr. President, mag-file ng katulad na resolusyon tungkol sa mga contingency measures ng ating gobyerno para siguruhin yung agarang kaligtasan ng ating mga overseas Filipino workers. Sayang na sayang po na nakarating na sa kaalaman natin yung trahedyang nangyari, no, kay Mary Ann de Vera Velasquez. Kaya nakikisa ako sa taus-pusong pakikiramay ng buong Senado sa kanyang pamilya sa Pangasinan. Kasabay po ng pagsiguro ng immediate safety ng ating iba pang at maraming OFWs, tingin ko po, Mr. President, dapat magkondukta din ng isang strategic re-examination ng ating pambansang polisiya sa energy security. Baka kailangan po natin ng isang government-administered na strategic oil reserve, at baka kailangan din nating bilisan yung renewable energy development para i-mitigate naman yung 96.8%, napakataas po, 96.8% na reliance ng ating bansa sa krudo mula sa gitnang silangan. Sa huli po, Mr. President, tingin ko po dapat mag-provide po tayo ng mga fiscal incentives para yung ating mga domestic industries ay magsilbing economic lifeboats, no? Na magsisiguro sa agad na pag-absorb ng mga repatriated workers sa tatlong partikular na sektor: sa energy sector, sa agriculture sector, at sa manufacturing sector, para nga ma-reintegrate immediately yung ating mga kababayang magpapa-repatriate, ma-reintegrate dito sa ating ekonomiya para mapigilan ang isang inflationary crisis na binabantayan na ng economic managers ng gobyerno, at para patuloy na magsulong kahit medyo bumagal pero dapat huwag tumigil yung national industrialization sa kabila pa rin po, Mr. President, nitong bumigla sa ating lahat na pagsiklab ng gera sa Middle East. Salamat po, Mr. President, at salamat muli sa good gentleman mula sa Palawan.
Thank you.
Senator Kiko Pangilinan.
Senator Kiko Pangilinan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just maybe one or two questions, but before that, I would like to congratulate our chairperson on the Committee on Foreign Relations for his very timely privileged speech. Malaking bagay po ang nangyayari sa Middle East sa ngayon, lalo na sa mahigit 1 milyon nating mga kababayan na doon nagtatrabaho. Malaki ang agam-agam po nila, at ang agarang pagkilos ng ating gobyerno ay isa sa mga paraan para matiyak ang kaligtasan ng ating mga kababayan. If I'm not mistaken, the good senator, as he mentioned earlier, filed a resolution in this regard. I believe Senator Bam Aquino likewise filed a resolution. And for the information of our chairperson of the Committee on Foreign Relations, we put together, and he signed it, a sense of the Senate resolution calling on urging the Philippine government to immediately implement measures for the protection and repatriation of overseas Filipino workers amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, and to adopt interventions to mitigate the resulting economic impacts on the Philippines. If I'm not mistaken, 22 senators have already signed the resolution. So maybe this, if the good senator is willing and amenable, perhaps through the majority leader, we can already adopt that resolution as a gesture and a symbol of the urgency of the matter, that immediately kumilos ang Senado, pumosisyon tungkol dito at isama na rin